past 100 years has brought forward unprecedented change. It was not long ago that Canadians willingly smoked in virtually any location they pleased, at work, in theaters, restaurants, and even hospitals. For decades, smoking was glorified, cool, and popular, and most importantly, widely accepted. During the early 1900s, tobacco smoking was a widespread habit. Virtually everyone smoked. With little known health effects and significant social glamorization, the tobacco market was booming. Recent mechanical advancements led to the development of the cigarette. This modification in the method of smoking led to the changes in the social constructs around smoking itself. What once was a leisurely pastime became an integral break-related activity. This shift in the social construct also led to the change in the tobacco industry, as cigarettes were becoming widely advertised in mass media. As you can see from these advertisements, smoking became an integral part of life, and one of life's greatest pleasures. That's at least what the tobacco companies wanted you to think. Many cigarette companies, such as Camel, Lucky Strike, Philip Morris, and Chesterfield, were trying to differentiate their brand of cigarettes and retain competitive advantage. This brand differentiation manifested itself mostly in print, such as newspaper ads, magazine ads, commercials, and billboards. Catch slogans and images were cleverly combined to set each brand above the next. Catchy slogans like, "You like them fresh, so do I," became popular by the 1950s, and print advertising continued to transform. The publicity and support surrounding the tobacco industry remained a booming force throughout the 1950s. Many companies used what was known as overt sexuality in order to attract male clientele. This marketing strategy, referred to as desirable association, revolves around having a consumer associate your product with dominant themes such as sexual ability. During this time period, tobacco companies need to constantly change and update their marketing plan in order to remain above the growing competition. Sometimes this involved using famous people to promote smoking, such as Mickey Mantle from the New York Yankees. By the 1960s, tobacco companies had yet again new challenges, with the dawn of medical research linking smoking to health-related illnesses. Companies within the industry were once again required to change and modify their marketing strategy to convince people that smoking was not harmful. At times, tobacco companies got so desperate to maintain their brand image from the medical findings that they even used doctors to endorse their products. However, it wasn't long into the 1960s when newspaper headlines started reading, "Smoking kills," and Richard Dahl's medical research and other medical studies profoundly changed the perceptions of smoking. And by the mid-1970s, smoking rates in Canada were on the decline, despite the cigarette companies' attempts to continue to show that smoking was not harmful. With medical research leading the way, many countries around the world, specifically Canada, made strides towards change. By the year 2000, the anti-smoking paradigm, particularly in Canada, was in full effect. This was reflected largely by the government's aggressive legislative intervention, cigarette taxes, and the widespread anti-smoking rhetoric that had blanketed the country. As a result of these changes, Canada was at the forefront as one of the few countries making significant strides towards becoming a smoke-free country. Throughout the 1900s, there was significant debate regarding the effectiveness of tobacco advertising and whether it enhanced the probability of smoking among Canadians. Despite much of the controversy, research eventually found that advertising did in fact play an important role in encouraging non-smokers to begin smoking. As a result, in the year 1997, the Tobacco Act was passed. This act severely restricted tobacco advertising. And by the year 2000, the Tobacco Products Information Regulation was adopted under the authority of the original Act. This Act continued to restrict tobacco advertising and required all tobacco companies to display graphic health warnings on their packages. The restrictions exemplified true change in Canada and throughout the world. The graphic warnings demonstrated exactly how serious the health effects of smoking were and deterred them away from either starting to smoke or motivated individuals to quit. Eventually, the dawn of graphic imaging fundamentally grew into a wide array of creative, powerful anti-smoking ads, as you can see here. Today, smoking is fundamentally different than it was 100 years ago. In Canada, anti-smoking has become an integral part of Canadian culture, and is articulated across all provinces and territories. The anti-smoking phenomenon has become a societal norm, where new cultural understandings associated with smoking have developed to ensure that change success continues onward into the future. As you venture onward to the corresponding scrapbook, we encourage you to think critically about smoking from a change model lens and ask yourself, has this been a successful transformation? The use of tobacco is the single most preventable cause of premature death and disease. However, even with all the efforts that have happened over the past 100 years, 9 out of 10 people, even in the face of death, will not change. Nobody can go back to the start and make a new beginning, but anyone can start today and make a new ending. By changing nothing in our lives, nothing will ever change. So don't say you don't have enough time, you're too scared, or you just don't want to change. Because there will always be someone who was hurt before you, wronged before you, beaten before you, hungry before you, humiliated before you. Yet all of these people have survived. You can do anything you put your mind to. And as the famous Wayne Gretzky would say, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. And you're never too old, or too bad, or too late to start from scratch once again. It doesn't matter where you are nowhere compared to where you can go. Change is possible, and although it may be hard, the past 100 years of smoking has shown that change, measurable, quantifiable change, can happen.